Order your copy now. You never know what's at the top of the stairs by Dave DeKeesh. You can order it at aragonwebs.com. I got the first inkling something not quite right when I went to see Mary, the landlady. She was on the second phalanx of the old 1880s style building. I somehow got the impression as I went to ring the bell at the entrance of her quarters that this row of buildings is the first line of defense somehow, perhaps from some evil force lurking just out of eyeshot. Defense from what? I murmured. The location sprawled about 100 feet from a dark stand of woods on the west side of the building. I thought perhaps marauding Indians came sweeping in there to attack, hidden among the broken, wind-blown tangle of dark roots and bushes and shrubs and tree trunks, forming a tangled bramble of thorns and jagged branches. I did not know, could not have known then, what was at the top of the stairs. Come at the door with the warm light from within, the light bathing her left side, making her astounding aristocratic profile all the more prominent. I could see her somewhat wild, large eyes, the large white sclerotic coats showing brilliantly in the dim light. As she looked up at me, relieved at only me and not some other enmity at her door, I got the impression, as is so often the case, that she was expecting someone or something else. I read her mind in a gust of slow relief. No, it's just David, the new tenant. She didn't want me to come in for some reason, and so suggested with a wave of her hand we go out and chant on the enchanted patio of the porch area. I noticed the worried wrinkles around her soft brown eyes slowly evaporate into warm lines of pleasure at my company. I could see for the first time the dark circles under her weary eyes. She had been up all night calling ambulances for her guests, her other tenants. She sat down in the opposite cushioned chair, resting with an obvious sigh of relief. I had wondered for some odd reason how often she reassured others everything is all right, when in point of fact she's scared silly inside so deeply she could never say. She seemed so weary and tired, bone-tired. I smiled too in astounded agreement at her fantastic statement about what's out there, and looked out at what she was pointing at. I saw nothing but some old hanging plants and the striking yellow rising moon casting an ambient light along down the vast repose of lawn, clear down the front of the old entranceway to the stately manse. She said irritatedly, "No, those." I looked higher and I smiled again animably as I felt her warm gushing aura bathe me in the white protective light. I said, "What, those hanging plants?" She nodded knowingly, a growing grin sweeping on her countenance in the most pure of obvious childlike pleasures. "You may see all the dirt in front is swept clean, but these are my babies. I simply could not get rid of them. You see," I leaned in closer and studied the curious vine-like plants, obviously some common house plant variety. She read my eyes and said, "No, these are special plants. They are my sentries. They guard the front of the house. Can't you see it?" I grew bemused, but somehow followed along with her odd line of thoughts. I could see. Order your copy now. You never know what's at the top of the stairs by Dave DeKeesh. I smiled and understood Mary perfectly to my utter amazement, or perhaps it's the reassuring tone of her formal language. I felt a certain hypnotic languor creeping over me from her mere intonation and pauses, like under the influence of a mild drug, a sip of calming absinthe, perhaps. Although I had never tried it, What foolish thoughts, I began thinking to myself as I now realized with a certain creepy unease, she is right. However, there is something out there. As I gazed up at the plants of the most common and innocuous variety, I looked down in bewilderment at the landscaped inner courtyard area, at all the plants there in the white rectangle off the lawn, the patch of brown earth framed by the nice off-white pavement sidewalks. To my astonishment, my eye found the Jimson plants, a fully mature bunch just growing there, just off the porch. I instantly thought, aha, the devilweed. I knew it. It loaded with the powerfully intoxicating belladonna, conveniently laced with requisite strychnine. Instantly I recalled a highly poisonous vegetable alkaloid occurring naturally in the genus of plants Strychnonux vomic. I further recalled who first discovered it. The new vegetable alkali called strychnine. This new alkali was discovered by Mr. Pelletier and Cabinetot in 1861. It is the first reported case of poisoning in Britain, and of course, everyone knows what strychnine is now. I looked down in utter astonishment on the table and noticed the rich purple, unmistakably spiny bulbs placed neatly on the table. I recoiled in horror as I realized in a flash they were, in fact, Jimson weed bulbs, slender but deadly seeds, chock full of hallucinogen and poison. Ancient Egyptian queens used small potions of the ground powder to dilate their eyes, to make them more hypnotic, more appealing, and beautiful. To my further astonishment, there next to the bulbs rested a stone mortar and shallow pedestal right there, right beside the ripe bulbs. Could it perhaps even be used to grind the craven brown seed into poisonous, powerfully intoxicating white powder, I thought? What could Mary, the sweetly innocuous landlady, be doing with this deadly poison? I thought, how could she know what they are? Why was she apparently grinding the bulbs into powder? I asked her, do you know what these are? She said rather too innocently, oh no, I just like them. Then she added hastily, as though I had accused her of something, they grow wild, you know. I said, yeah, I know. I looked down at the manicured courtyard, suspiciously knowing they couldn't be here by happenstance. I added blandly, for information only, they are Jimson weed. I told her suddenly, I don't really know for sure, as I got up out of the chair, up out of the suddenly uncomfortable, suddenly suffocating, cloistering seat cushions. I knew this place enchanted. Then I instantly knew it. I thought this charmed cottage and me in the presence of fine Lady Balzerie, who also knows about the secret life of plants. Upon whose table shall this Jimson weed be served? Upon whose cloak shall this secret deadly sentry be cast? I realized Mary was a powerful metaphysician. It seemed so odd, I thought retrospectively, and somewhat rather more logically. I am tired after all, and just as quickly realized, rather whimsically, but all the more emphatically, how utterly absurd. Plants imbued with sentiency?